And actually, it would have been no guarantee that Tutankhamun would have been discovered to this day had they not found it. As both Carnarvon and Carter said, when you went into the tomb, it was as if time had absolutely stood still for 3,200 years. And it looked like a snapshot of I think Carter said, an opera workshop of an ancient world.
So Tutankhamun's throne was found underneath one of the beds. As Lord Carnarvon and Howard Carter looked through the little hole they'd made, they'd have seen a glint of gold. It was wrapped with a shroud with some linen, so they wouldn't have seen much. And Lord Carnarvon noted when he first broke in there, it was one of the things he saw of indescribable beauty and an extraordinary work of art. As well as a work of art, it's rather a personal throne as well, because there you've got Tutankhamun sitting on a throne. His wife, Ankhesenamun, gently reaching out again to anoint him. She looks like she's holding a little bowl, perhaps with some oil in or something like that. This whole throne takes one back to the Amarna period, that of his father, because it's got the typically Amarna symbol at the top of the sun, with the rays pointing down. Tutankhamun and Ankhesenamun are dressed in silver. The rest of the throne is gold and precious inlays. Silver was a very rare metal because there wasn't any of it in Egypt. It had to be won as a trophy from lands they conquered. Tutankhamun's name is, needless to say, everywhere. It's on the back of the throne, it's on the sides here with the wonderful wings of the vulture and cobra type creature. And at the bottom of the cartouches here is the symbol for gold. When he was in the house of gold, this throne would be with him into eternity. There were probably bejeweled struts from the chair down to the wood halfway down, which was covered in gilt, which may well have been raided by grave robbers in antique time, because it was in the first room, it was low down, they could have got it and just yanked it out and yanked all the jewels. And Howard Carter estimated that sort of 60% of the jewellery which would have been in the tomb, the everyday jewellery, the regalia from his time, was possibly stolen by grave diggers of ancient times. Tutankhamun's grandfather, Amenhotep III, was a much more famous pharaoh in the sense of what he achieved within his reign. His tomb must have been fantastic. Because he was a more successful, more renowned pharaoh, people knew to look for his tomb. So I figured that those ones were going to be robbed first, whereas Tutankhamun was the instinct that he was the minor pharaoh, minor in age and minor in comparison to some of his successors and predecessors.
Strangely, the best known one now.
Absolutely, isn't it ironic? And perhaps charming, because all he was a pharaoh. He wasn't a great general, simply a boy who'd married a girl and died after a bad chariot accident, probably. So here you've got Tutankhamun, and there's so much detail. I always love showing this piece to the children, because you can see how he put his bows at the side of his chariot. You can see his reins wrapped around the horse. You can see the plumes on the top of the horses' heads as they leap forward, and by wrapping the reins round his waist, which looks blooming dangerous to me, he has his hands free for his bow and arrow. So if you got tangled in the reins, you were going to have a bad accident. I mean, completely not ideal. Health and safety, you would say no, but practically, I guess it worked. And then the sides are painted with the two armies with which he had to battle, because Egypt was naturally protected on east and west by the desert, so you could only attack it from the north or the south. So you had the Hittites and the Nubians. So on one side he's depicted defeating and turning over the Nubians, defeated in battle. On the other side the Hittites. I would suspect he did not attack north and south. I suspect maybe this is a symbolic representation of what he would have done. At the time he took over, it was a reasonably stable country. They didn't need to acquire other lands, they just needed to defend themselves.
He never ever saw the inner coffin, the mummy, certainly not the gold mask. That's the iconic object of the tomb. He never saw that.
So these were some of the last pieces. But what are things of known you found, at least, when you died?